Stop waiting for the spark, because motivation is a liar. It's a fair weather friend that abandons you the second the wind gets cold. If you only move when you feel like it, you've already lost. Winners don't live by a feeling, they live by a standard called discipline. The fundamental trap most people fall into is the motivation, the delusional belief that you need to feel inspired before you can take action. We've been conditioned to wait for a surge of dopamine, a pump-up song, or a bolt of lightning to strike before we hit the gym, start the business, or make that difficult call. But here is the cold, hard reality. Motivation is a biological variable. It is a chemical state that fluctuates based on how much sleep you got, what you ate, the weather outside, or the last comment someone made to you on social media. If you base your life's work on a feeling, you are building your house on shifting sand. You are essentially saying that your dreams are subordinate to your current mood. Think about the sheer inconsistency of that strategy. If you only show up when you're up, you're a part-time player in a full-time world. You are a slave to your own chemistry. The elite, the top 1% in any field, understand that feeling like it is a luxury they cannot afford. They don't check their emotional pulse before they execute. They execute because they made a psychological contract with themselves. When you rely on motivation, you are constantly negotiating with yourself. You wake up and ask, do I feel like it today? And the moment you ask that question, you've already given yourself an out. You've opened the door for the inner roommate, that weak, whiny voice, to talk you out of your greatness, True power comes from the cutoff. It's the moment you stop the negotiation and start the execution. You must realize that action actually creates the feeling, not the other way around. Most people wait for the fire to start before they put the wood in, but the universe doesn't work that way. You put the wood in, you strike the match of discipline, and the heat of motivation follows as a byproduct of your movement. By detaching your performance from your emotional state, you become dangerous. You become a force of nature because you are no longer predictable or stoppable by a bad day. You move because you said you would, and that internal integrity is worth more than 1,000 temporary sparks of inspiration. Would you like me to break down how to shift from standards versus goals next? Most people running their lives based on a set of goals, but goals are a trap if they aren't backed by a shift in your identity. You see, a goal is something you're chasing, something out there that you hope to achieve someday. But a standard is who you are right now. It is the baseline of what you are willing to tolerate in your life. Most people have goals to be rich, but their standard is just getting by. They have goals to be fit, but their standard is comfort over challenge. And here is the secret that separates the icons from the masses. You don't get your goals, you get your standards. If you look at your life today, your bank account, your relationships, your physical body, it is a direct reflection of your standards. It's a mirror of what you've decided is okay. If you want to change your life, you have to stop focusing on the someday and start raising the floor of your must. You have to make a psychological shift where your shoulds become must. We all have a list of things we should do. I should lose weight. I should grow my business. I should be more present. But we don't do our shoulds, we do our musts. When something becomes a must, you find a way. You don't negotiate. You don't look for excuses. You just move. Discipline is simply the mechanism that enforces those new standards. It is the guardian of your integrity. When you raise your standards, you are essentially saying to yourself and the world, this is the new minimum. I will no longer accept anything less than this level of energy, this level of results. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being certain. It's about creating a psychological environment where failure to meet your own expectations is more painful than the effort required to succeed. When your standard is high enough, discipline isn't a struggle, it's a natural expression of who you have become. You don't have to try to breathe, and you shouldn't have to try to execute when your identity is tied to execute. When you have to decide right here and right now that the old version of you, the one that tolerated mediocrity and accepted excuses, is dead. You have to draw a line in the sand and step over it into a new reality where your daily actions are a perfect match for the vision you claim to have for your future. Would you like me to move on to explaining the third keynote about the power of ritual? Transformation doesn't happen in the giant cinematic moments of life. It happens in the quiet, repetitive, and often invisible rituals that you perform every single day. We are the sum of our habits. Most people are looking for a quantum leap, a magic pill, or a lucky break that will suddenly catapult them into a new dimension of success. But the universe doesn't reward the occasional, it rewards the consistent. If you want to see your future, don't look at your dreams, look at your calendar. Look at what you did this morning between 5 o'clock a.m. and 9 a.m. Look at how you end your night. Your rituals are the tracks upon which the train of your life runs. If those tracks are misaligned, I don't care how much motivation or engine power you have, you're going to end up in the wrong destination. Discipline is the power to install these rituals until they become automatic, until they are part of your very DNA. When you create a ritual, you are taking the decision-making process out of the equation. You aren't waking up and wondering if you're going to work out, if you're going to meditate, or if you're going to make those sales calls. You do them because that is the ritual of a champion. Think about the psychological momentum that is created when you stack win after win, hour after hour. When you honor your rituals, you are sending a massive signal to your subconscious mind that you are a person of your word. You are building a reservoir of self-certainty that carries you through the storms. Most people have rituals of distraction. They check their phones first thing in the morning, they react to everyone else's agenda, and they wonder why they feel drained and defeated by noon. They have a ritual of dabbling, but you must have a ritual of immersion. You must create a daily architecture that supports the person you are becoming. This is about conditioning your nervous system. Just like you condition a muscle in the gym, you condition your spirit and your mind through the repetition of excellence. When your rituals are dialed in, discipline ceases to be a chore and becomes a liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of choice and the exhaustion of willpower. It allows you to operate at a level of peak performance that most people can only dream of because you have built a foundation that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. Would you like me to wrap this up by explaining the final keynote on decision as a catalyst? True discipline is not a slow, agonizing slide into a new habit. It begins with a singular, violent, and absolute moment of decision. The word decision comes from the Latin root decision, which literally means to cut off. When you make a real decision, you are cutting off any other possibility. You are burning the bridges behind you. You are saying that there is no plan B, no maybe, and no I'll try. Most people don't make decisions, they make preferences. They say, I'd like to be more disciplined, or it would be nice if I were more consistent, but a preference has no power. A preference banishes the moment thin. GS get difficult. A decision, however, is a catalyst that fundamentally alters your internal chemistry and your external reality. It is the spark that ignites the engine of discipline. You must reach a point of threshold, a point where the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. Until you reach that threshold, you're just dabbling. But once you decide, once you truly commit in your soul, the struggle of discipline begins to evaporate, because the how starts to show up once the why is absolute. This decision is the ultimate act of self-leadership. It is the moment you stop being a passenger in your own life and grab the steering wheel with both hands. It requires you to be brutally honest with yourself about the excuses you've been using as a crutch. You have to look at those excuses and realize they are nothing more than a protective mechanism for your ego. When you decide you kill the excuse, you stop negotiating with your lower self. This is the catalyst that turns a dreamer into a doer. It's the difference between someone who talks about a breakthrough and someone who lives one. Discipline then becomes the loyal soldier that carries out the orders of that one powerful decision. It's the daily execution of an oath you made to yourself in a moment of clarity. Without this initial catalyst, discipline feels like a prison sentence. But with it, discipline feels like a path to freedom. You are no longer wondering if you can do it. You are simply managing the process of getting it done. You have shifted from the world of wish to the world of wish to the world of will. This is where your power lies, in the authority of your command over your own life.